Are you a PA or an NP who needs to negotiate their contract, either because you're job hunting and you'll be starting a new job, or if you're in your job and you haven't had a raise for a while and you are overdue? Then you're definitely going to want to listen to this interview because my guest is a PA who has some great information to share about salary negotiations. Hi, it's Michelle with the Medicine Couch. I love bringing you all these PA or NP career related topics. If you like them too, go ahead and support the channel by hitting that subscribe button down below, liking the videos, and sharing them with your colleagues and friends.
Hi, all. I'm Katie Beaudoin. I'm a PA going on 20 years practice in 2025. I'm fellowship trained in emergency medicine and critical care. And I also teach in the PA world as both a doctoral trained professor and as a clinical fellowship for PAs in family practice and urgent care.
Thank you for joining us today. And I'm having you on because you and I were talking about your specialty of critical care. And
Mhm.
I'll have that card linked up here if people want to watch that video. But we got talking about salary and salary negotiations, and I thought you had a lot of great things to say. So we're going to help people learn how to negotiate and get the best deal that they can. But before we start off into that, what makes you credible in order to be able to speak about salary negotiations, particularly?
I have been practicing for almost 20 years and I have onboarded new employees. I also mentor a lot of newer APPs. So I've done a lot of looking at contracts and negotiations, and I've learned a lot about billing and RVU work by working with administration. I've often a lead PA in my group, and my mom was a consultant for hospital systems. So
Oh,
I've
interesting.
always gotten an earful from her.
You mentioned something that you also started a newsletter. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I felt like there needed a gap filled out there for all APPs. So I partnered with a friend. If there's something in the local news, national news for our APPs, and have a component of for people who aren't APPs yet, how do you become one? And then also, I like to give some fun facts, and I've started to insert some AI technology advice in there too.
So let's talk about salary negotiations. Why is it crucial to be good at negotiating your salary?
First of all, our profession needs you to be good at negotiating salary. New grads are so desperate to take anything, and salaries should be going up with time. And there are some states, Florida is a prime example. They have APPs coming out that they'll take anything. If you're settling for a lower amount, it reinforces to the organizations that we're only worth that, and they can always hire somebody else. So it brings everyone down if you settle for a lower salary. The second reason is when you start a new position, that is your best time for a raise. That 3% merit per year may or may not come. So it's really important to not be shy about it and do your research before you come in to that negotiation.
Yeah, because it'd be sad. And I know there's people in this position who are at a job that they really like. They enjoy their coworkers. The schedule
Mhm.
works for them. Just everything about it is good, except for they didn't negotiate a very high salary coming in, probably thinking, oh, I'll get in and I'll prove I'm a good worker and get those raises later. And in medicine, it just doesn't really work that way. And
Mm.
so how sad is it to wake up 5 years down the road realizing you haven't gotten any raises? You're finding out people are getting hired at higher salaries than you, and really the only way at that point to get a higher salary is to leave that job that you like and find something else. So, I mean, it's just one example, but yeah, the point is that when you come in, that is the time to negotiate for the best deal that you can get. And then hope that there's raises and things later.
Mhm.
So when you're going to negotiate, of course, it's hard for people. A lot of people don't like, they think of it as confrontation and they want the job, like you said, and they don't want to seem like that they're somebody who's always asking for stuff. What can you say about mindset about negotiation? Like how should people think of it?
Good question. There's two kinds of people, those who are shy about it, and those are direct. The direct people are going to make more. And I will say the direct people are generally men. And it's a fact that men make more money. And it's because many times women are, oh, we just feel like it's confrontational. It's not, it's business. You're being hired by somebody to do a job. I love my job, but it is not my life. Right.
Right.
I am working to live. And so if you have to come in strong, but you have to come in objective. I was lowballed in my most recent offer and I came in and said, I qualify for the max pay. You're a reasonable organization. I hope we can come to an agreement. And at the end of the day, you don't have to take the job if they don't.
Right.
Many times they'll come up, they're going to try to get you for the lowest dollar amount possible. And you just say, hey, I have my master's, I have this many years experience. I said I had a doctorate. I'm coming in fully loaded. I have prior years state experience. I have my procedure log. I'm fully credentialed. You have to give objective. You can't just come in with a random number, right?
Right.
So if you know you're in internal medicine, know what the RVU reimbursement is, know the potential that you could make for that organization. So if I am seeing 15 patients a day, this is what Medicare pays per person. You can give an estimate. I'm probably making you around 300,000 a year with my admissions and extra XYZ. I can't work without you in your organization. So taking a step back and then coming up with a reasonable negotiation is the way to go.
And so I think a lot of people too stumble on that step. Like, I don't know because I've never really looked at any kind of financial figures before how much I bring into a practice. What are some ways that people can gather that kind of information, either from where they're currently working or just different websites, or where do they go to find that information?
Absolutely important to do your research. So, anybody, and I wish I did this earlier in my career, join my state organization and support that state organization because they're lobbying for you and literally paying to lobby for you and your national organizations. But they will have salary reports and you can get it by region. And if you're working for a state organization, most of the time those salaries are publicly reported and you have to dig a little bit, but you can find them.
And you mean like state organizations like at university, hospitals that are connected with the
Yep.
university, things like that, they by law have to make that information public?
Absolutely. And there are a lot of hybrid organizations now that they might have, University of Texas has a contract with, say, Memorial Hermann or Methodist in St. Luke's. You can still find it. And the other thing that you can do is look at the Medicare. Medicare has a standard reimbursement rate for various specialties, and you can actually look at what those reimbursement rates are and get an idea of your average billing when you're interviewing. You should also be asking what the salary range is.
And that's a good way to ask that, right? Instead of saying, "What are you paying?" Ask, "What is your salary range?" Because
Mhm.
then you can use that information to figure out what your target salary is, right?
Exactly.
If you're working for an organization, you're either at an outpatient clinic or you're working in a hospital, and you really feel like you are due a raise, and you want to do as much research as you can to know what that figure would be. How do you get your numbers, or do you have a right to see the numbers, like what you're actually contributing and bringing into the practice?
Absolutely. Your productivity should be monitored. And if it's not, you need to be asking why. You can also keep your own patient log as long as it's encrypted or keep your numbers per day. I used to have on my encrypted hospital email, I would keep a list of not the patient names or any demographic, but MRN, keep track of who I saw every day. And I have my patient list because some places, and it depends if you're in a surgical specialty, they might lump bill your patients. But if you know
Mhm.
your own productivity, that's a good way to keep it if they're lump billing it. But this is a business, healthcare is a massive business. So you should be able to ask your billing department what the captured billing, not necessarily what they actually were able to retrieve, but what is your billing that's been sent out, estimated billing. You could look at per quarter, per half year, per year. And if you're in a group setting, you could look at the groups. I've never been denied that. I think it's even maybe like my right to ask, okay, what are can you give me a summary of my procedure billing that I did alone this year? Or because it'll help capture your productivity. Be careful because if you're flying under the radar and you're not very productive, this could backfire. I'll
Right.
just remember that. Or if you look at what you're capturing, you might go, "Oh, ooh, I might have broken even. I think I'm just gonna take a step back
Right.
and just maybe try to get a little productive next quarter."
How do you know who to negotiate with, especially when you come into a new place and you don't know who is who in the practice? And I know it's going to be different in every practice, but is it normally like a practice manager, or do you try to find the senior physician in the group? Who do you usually zero in on, and what clues tell you this is the person to negotiate with?
When you're onboarding, ask for an overview of the personnel.
Yeah.
They should be able to give you
Yeah.
a nice I have asked, I said, I'm having a time looking at the structure of the organization. They should be able to provide that for you. And if it's a smaller office clinic, it's still going to largely be your practice manager, but your supervising or collaborating physician has some clout. And if they have your back, if they want to support you, they should go to bat for you and say, I don't want to lose my person. It's time for. And I've had plenty of physicians do that for my group and go, okay, it's time. They need a mid merit raise or mid whatever fiscal year bump, or they'll go to bat, look at numbers with the billing department and say, okay, it's time to move this up.
Do you ever feel like that's a wrong move necessary to talk to the senior physician or the physician who may have the sway in your salary?
The conversation should start with your direct report. You don't want to pull a fast one. You don't
Right.
want them to be surprised. Have that conversation. Hey, I've been working here for 2 years. I haven't received a merit raise. Inflation is going up. Looking at my national state numbers, I'm not making as much as I should have. And have your list ready. I haven't taken a day off. I have been to work on time. I've seen all my patients. I've not called in sick. Have your objective list. And I'd like to request a raise. Don't start with the negative. Don't threaten to leave. If you threaten to leave, you should be prepared to walk out that
Right.
day, right? So it has to be done in a reasonable manner that's very objective, and reasonable people will reason with you.
And when and how do you approach the physician if you're not getting the satisfaction that you want when you request a raise?
Sure. So when if you're going to your direct report, say we report to our APP liaison, say in the main downtown office, and I'm not getting it, or I have a lead, or I am the lead, and I'm not receiving any information. That's what that time I'd go, hey, Dr. So I just want to let you know I'm not getting anywhere with this person. They're not responding to emails, or they've just given me a flat no. In smaller organizations, there should be some ability for people to talk to each other. And when you have a good relationship with your staff and your physicians, if you're not receiving that from your manager, you should be able to talk to your collaborating physicians at that point. Just say, hey, I'm not getting anywhere.
Right.
And they might have more of a voice, which is a sad but true statement. In larger organizations in a university system, you might just be maxed and that's it. There's no negotiation with HR, and it's not available until every year you should have a review of some sort, and that's your chance to receive a merit raise. Like, say they have a range. There's an early 0 to 5 years of practice, 6 to 10. That's most bigger organizations will have a salary range. Oh, I've met. This is my 5th year now. I believe I meet the like next step for it to come up in salary, and it should come up at that point.
And of course, like I said, you have to gauge the relationship you have with your supervising or collaborating physician,
Mhm,
and you want to always do it with tact, and you don't want to come across as complaining, or that you just want to come across more
mhm,
factual and that you're asking for their help or their opinion on things.
mhm.
So you had said something about like you just come up against a hospital, especially like in a hospital system, they just have a max and stuff. What do you do when you are trying to negotiate, you're trying to get hired for a job and you ask for a certain amount? Because this happened to me, and they come back and they say, sorry, we don't negotiate. This is what we offer. Is it take it or leave it at that point, or are there any other things that you can think about in negotiations?
This has happened to me as well, and I just took a step back and said, no, I want the max salary. And they came back and said, well, then you don't have anywhere to grow. And I'm like, well, I know that once I get in, I'm not going to be growing much. So I want this right away. And I gave a very factual summary of qualifications in a very professional email. And at that point, they did actually come back and make me almost max. They're never going to actually just give it all to you, really.
Right.
But
Right.
after you have made your objective very professional response and you know that you have no wiggle room after that, still consider the big picture, because I have accepted a little bit lower salaries because of the benefits alone in an
Mhm.
organization. Looking at retirement reimbursement. So if they are offering a very high contribution or a high match, which is over let's say over 50%, that's free money in your pocket. If they're offering a free match on your IRA, if you're not paying, you might have a higher salary, but you're paying $700 a month insurance compared to a place that lower it's a lower salary and free benefits for me and my family. That's incredible. You have to take that into consideration. Also, CME allowance, professional development funds. Are they paying for your scrubs? Some places will pay you mileage to go to different clinics. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, it's an important point because it's everyone focuses on the salary, but that is not the only thing. I mean, the purpose of a higher salary is to increase the amount of money you keep like every month, right? Well, if you can
Mhm.
do that other ways, then look at that. And I think sometimes organizations have a little bit more leeway with the benefits as opposed to the salary just being, a fixed number.
And tuition reimbursement, all of those things can really be lucrative. I believe the VA has now expanded their tuition reimbursement to a contract of 2 years, and they forgive all your student loans.
Oh, wow.
That
Yeah, that's
I wish I had that, and that's for civilians now. It used to just be for military PAs,
oh,
but
well,
just keep that. That's
yeah.
that's what rumor has. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that yet. That's another thing I think about is that there are many different ways that PAs and NPs get paid, straight salary, hourly, RVUs. What are some of the things that people need to pay attention to and look at in the contract to make sure that everything's going to work how they think it's going to, that they're going to get the pay that they think they're signing up for?
So if your contract is based on a bonus structure, so you're taking a lower base with this bonus structure, make sure that that bonus structure is going to get paid out in a reasonable amount of time, and that the bonus isn't dependent on billing received. So there are some places that base their bonuses on your billing. So what's my production? What have I billed for? But if I'm working in an indigent community where hardly any of my patients are going to pay their bills or can pay their bills, and I'm only getting paid on billing received, I could potentially, if they gave me a bonus structure on my billing, there could be a clause in there that says I have to pay them back if they
Oh.
don't receive everything that I'm billing for. And I've heard that happen. I've seen it happen, and that's a slippery slope. So I would never sign that ever in a million years. And I would never sign a contract that penalized me in terms of a non-compete.
Non-competes are huge, and hopefully we are moving away from that. I've read that some
Mhm.
states have banned them altogether, and I know the federal ban is kind of tied up right now and maybe
Yeah.
for years. Yeah, but I hadn't heard that before about having to pay back bonuses. That God, what a nightmare that would be to find out you get a bill for several $1,000s you have to pay back because you can only control your productivity, right? You can't control what happens with billing and what people end up paying or how effective the
Mhm.
billing department is and things like that. So, yeah, definitely watch for those. Any other red flags or anything else that people should think about and look in their contract when it comes to the salary part?
I think we should be talking to our colleagues,
Yeah.
asking them if they've been successful in getting a merit raise or more than a merit raise, and ask them if they're actually receiving their bonuses. If you're telling me you're only bonusing me based on a productivity, anything over 15 patients a day, is that sustainable? Or are you staying till 10? Like, I know you're killing it. I've heard your bonuses are coming in the door, but is that person staying till 10 o'clock at night and working extra weekends? And how many extra shifts are they working? So, you might have somebody that seems to be making a ton of money, but they're not having a good work-life balance in order to obtain it.
That's a great point too. When you're looking to hire on somewhere going to pay in a bonus structure, you should always talk to the existing PAs and NPs in the group if there are any,
Mhm.
and that should be one of the things that you ask them. Like, this is the bonus structure. Is it reasonable? Are you actually able to meet these ever, or is it something just sounds great but it's just not obtainable? And remember, if you are nervous about this or really don't know how to go about doing it, there are people like Katie and other PAs and NPs that actually have kind of side businesses and they help people with all kinds of contract negotiation and different aspects of PA or NP employment. So definitely contact them if you are interested in that. Well, thank you so much, Katie, for giving us some insight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We have to all work to elevate our professions and obtain that level of respect and that monetary baseline that we work hard for, we deserve.
If you're not quite at the negotiation phase and you really are more interested in how you go about finding a good job as a PA or an NP, then you want to watch this video here. Thanks so much for joining me. And as always, take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.